Hello and welcome to AQS Inmate Call, and I'm your host, Joel Wilborn. In this fourth installment, Greg Brown discusses how to submit a grievance behind the walls. It gives you an insight on what the prisoners go through when there's an issue going on in there. And prisoners, I don't know if everybody knows this, but they are well aware that prisons aren't a five-star resort. There's going to be some things you just have to deal with. You don't like the food, you don't like the accommodations, you don't like your roommate. There's some things you just have to suck it up and deal with. But other things, when it comes to health, when it comes to proper nutrition, medical treatment, these are things that are guaranteed to a prisoner. They have rights just like we do. They don't give up all their rights. Freedom, they give that up. But the right to communicate with their family, the right to free speech, this stuff follows them within the walls. And that's one thing I've discussed in previous episodes, where when a jury decides to convict the person and lock them up, there's going to be a huge cost that goes with that and a lot of responsibility put on the Department of Corrections. And while the Department of Corrections is a government agency that complies with the state and local rules and laws, they have obstacles that they run into: manpower, experience, stress, depression, trauma. All these things affect the DOC officials as well. So just to give you an idea of situations that prisoners go through that are outside the norm, this is Greg Brown's narrative. So hopefully this will open up some conversation, and maybe you'll even contact Mr. Brown. But for those of you who are curious on how prisoners go through grievances and mistreatment and what DOC officials do, this is the place to be.
Hello, America. I got cut off my last part. I don't know how. I guess the prison just cut us off for some reason. So I'm going to pick up where I left off. So the last thing I was talking about was the roadmap. Our battle file, it informs prisoners and others about the rights of prisoners in a way that is not provided by any other source. It's like a roadmap for anyone to follow to enforce those rights and to hold prison officials accountable. You just look up the issue that you want to talk about, and then you look up the forms that we have presented and simply fill out the forms and press the buttons that we tell you to press, and then it all happens. Things start getting sent to the people that things need to be sent to. And if there's any phone calls to make, obviously you have to make the calls yourself. It also serves as notice to prison officials of what they must do and what action will be taken against them if they do not comply. So they have this hammer hanging over their head that is letting them know, look, if you don't straighten up your act, this is what's going to happen to you. They're going to get on the phone and call their attorney, which is the Attorney General's office, and they're going to ask, hey, well, kids, can they do that? And the Attorney General is going to say, yeah, they can do that. That's law. And when they look at the phone and say, wow. So this is one of the features of the battle file. It lets them know what's going to happen to them, including reliable evidence that we have documented that they're doing this. So this is all of this and more is explained in our battle file, because prison officials can no longer play like they don't know the law. In the mere existence of this battle file, without us even doing anything, would by itself compel them to get their act together, and in turn would save the state millions of tax dollars that may be used elsewhere, thus cultivating a better and more safe society. It is critical for prisoners and members of the public to be made aware of the prisoner's rights and taught how to enforce them. The next section is our official corruption expose. Now, Washington state prison officials, they believe that, they act like they believe they're above the law. They believe that an established law should not apply to them, nor apply to their treatment of prisoners. They seem to believe that established laws are not supposed to protect prisoners, and each year the guards unions fights more and more to get more and more power to use against prisoners. It's a constant struggle to have any rights in the prison environment. Official corruption expose is where we do our hardest hitting. We post articles that document prison guards and officials routinely harassing, lying, pressuring, intimidating, abusing, like I said, committing crimes, falsifying reports to harass prisoners, and the cover of their unlawful actions. This is where things get documented to where you can actually read the documents and say, yeah, that really did happen. I'm reading it right here. You see the proof yourselves. And in turn, the prison officials can't deny it because the proof is right there in our battle file for all the world to see. Now, the official corruption expose, it differs from the grievance bank in a number of ways. Because prison policy undermines the prison grievance process by restricting what prisoners may say and how we may say it. For one, an entire grievance is supposed to fit on one short page. And every year, the DLC finds a way to reduce the amount of space on that page. It's just like, just most recently, it used to be a blank page. Now, over the last few months, they've drawn lines so that you can write on the lines. And of course, the lines are spaced where it takes up a lot of room, and now they want you to write on the lines. And you get less on the form. The idea just sit back and develop ways to make it harder and harder for us to fit what we want to say on this one page. Prisoners are not allowed to cite enough law adequately to adequately support our grievance. We're not allowed to describe patterns of misconduct or show how one incident is related to another. We run into all kinds of situations that you can't just tell in one paragraph, nor is it like one incident. We may not be able to show how this is wrong without speaking on a pattern. Sometimes we have to say, listen, this happened last week, and then this happened a few days later, and then this happened this week, a couple of days ago, and then this happened today, in order to show how this officer knew what he was doing was wrong. But we can't do that in agreements. They want to separate everything. You can't talk about what happened last week and connect it to what's happening this week and all that, even though it's necessary to make out your grievance. We're not allowed to complain about the treatment of others. As I said earlier, them bringing the wheelchair to someone who's had a heart attack, we couldn't even complain about that because we're not the ones who had a heart attack, even though we're afraid by the time we have a heart attack, we're not going to be able to stop and write up a grievance real quick. We're in the middle of having a heart attack, and they're going to roll up with a wheelchair. but we can't complain about it because we haven't had a heart attack yet. None of these kinds of restrictions apply to articles submitted in our official corruption expose. The official corruption expose may post articles on any subject. These articles may cite any law and attach any legal memorandum, any legal brief, any supporting documents. For example, about the heart attack. Because the prisoner may attach one or more grievances to the article, showing his grievances about the wheelchairs was returned to him, saying that he wasn't allowed to read the situation because it hadn't happened to him yet. We can write an article about that and then attach everything. This is the only way that we can talk about it because we weren't allowed to file a grievance on it. The expose writer may attach medical reports. Let me see. I lost my place here. Medical reports and medical journals stating that the use of wheelchairs and transporting heart attack victims is essentially a death sentence imposed upon a heart attack patient. People who read this in other articles may then write letters, make phone calls, and stop DOC from using this deadly procedure on heart attack victims. Anyone may write an article about articles that we have already posted. You can read one article, and add new points to it in your article, expound upon points that were already raised in the previous article. Obviously, people who read articles out there, there's some really knowledgeable people out there who can add to it. Write an article about that. Talk about that article and expound upon it and make it better. Give us more ammunition to use to improve the prison system. For instance, a psychologist may wish to write an article explaining how routine thefts and abuses of prisoners' property virtually guarantees that prisoners will continue to commit property crimes in the future. That would really be nice. You have someone who is a psychologist break it down from the psychological point of view, somebody who's really qualified to speak on this. They can say, yes, this is the way the brain works. This is the way our psyche works. When you do this, this happens. And that'll help us make our point in trying to explain to people that when you're dogging people in prison, they get out and they act like dogs. And that hurts everybody. It might explain why Washington State rate of recidivism is so high. The next section is our activist drive. This is where we roll up our sleeves and work directly with persons or groups of people in the community. Members of the community may contact us to ask questions, offer suggestions, and learn how they may best help us. They may choose to work alone on any project or join and work with an already existing team or form a team of their own. The system that I propose today would train and help these activists in every way. The next section is the voter drive. This is where we lobby for the creation of better laws and organize voter blocks to support certain political candidates for election to public office or opposing others. Our voting drive manager builds an ever-growing list of registered voters who have plans to support specific views in favor of presidents, who will support the creation of laws that affect those issues. We look to have hundreds of thousands of names so that basically our voter drive manager can call up a legislator and tell him that he's aware that he got in office by a couple thousand votes And we have 300,000 votes on a particular issue. Many of those are out of his district. Will he support this issue? Well, we're speaking the language of the legislator now. He knows what you're saying. Get on board or get voted out. So this is how we get legislators on our team as well. This ever-growing list of registered voters is used for those lobbying purposes. Our voter drive manager may become the most politically powerful citizen in the United States of America. Yeah, could do that. The next section is our prison life expose. In this section, prisoners may write and post articles about their everyday life and experience so as to provide context for free people in trying to understand what's going on behind prison walls and our issues here. In turn, their friends and families may write and post articles about their lives and issues too. This way, you're not looking at people out there don't have to look at our issues in a vacuum, not knowing. You know, you may have a prisoner telling his story about how the prison guard busted in his cell and threw away his pictures and greeting cards from his grandchildren. This actually happened. It happened here at the Washington State Penitentiary. They went in the cell and threw away his greeting cards of his grandkids. This is an old man who had a lot of time to do, and he's reserved. He's accepted the fact that he's going to die in prison. He has nothing except his letters and cards from his grandchildren, and these cards came in and threw them away. Now this guy here, he has no reason to live. He's sitting in prison with no reason to live. He wants to kill himself because the guards threw away his letters and cards. Nobody will understand this. If you didn't hear that part of the story, you wouldn't know what. You would think, what's the big deal with throwing away letters and cards? That's nothing. No, this was everything, because this is what kept this man wanting to live, continue to live until the day that he died of natural causes in prison. He stayed alive, loving and thinking about his grandkids and reading those letters over and over, and that's what kept him going. And the guards threw him away. That's crazy, man. That's absolutely crazy. Anyway, our next section, business drive. And last but not least, in this billion-dollar prison industrial complex, lots of money is being made off prisoners, their families, and their loved ones. Those who are currently getting rich off prisoners apparently have no interest in helping prisoners. For instance, this new Securious system, I've just been told today that my presentation is going to sound garbled to those of you out there who are trying to understand what it is I'm saying. Of course we can make a better system to where my presentation is not garbled. Obviously, we're doing this on purpose. That's one example. Another example, the way they delete our emails after 24 hours for the obvious purpose of keeping prisoners from using our emails to build legal briefs and legal arguments in support of our court cases. After all, they know it takes more than 24 hours to build and use a legal argument. That's why they say, hey, you better do your email in 24 hours. I'm not a child. Don't be telling me how long it takes with my emails. Listen, when I complained to Securious about them deleting our draft emails, a Securious representative named Pearl responded to me on January 3rd, 2023, in part, quote, after 24 hours, email drafts will automatically be deleted from your tablet email app at the kiosk. Please send drafts within the 24-hour window, unquote. So it gives me a 24-hour window on my tablet with my emails. That's crazy. On the 4th, I responded, quote,
You have 1 minute left.
my property. I'll call back in a minute as well.
All right.